I didn't stage some dramatic reveal. No rainbow flags. No fiery speech at the dinner table. I simply told the truth quietly, plainly hoping that might make it easier to digest. It was after dinner. My mom was at the sink rinsing dishes. My dad, wearing his usual expression of stern disapproval, was absorbed in his phone. I sat at the edge of the kitchen, nerves churning in my chest like acid. I'm gay. Just 2 words. Statement of fact, not a debate. My mother froze mid-rinse. The water continued running. The dishwasher hummed, filling the silence like a funeral hymn. My father slowly lowered his phone and stared at me like I'd just cursed at scripture. "What did you say?" he asked, voice low and sharp like a blade. I repeated myself softer now, though I'm not sure why. "I'm gay." He didn't look. Surprised. His face bypassed shock and landed directly on fury. He rose so abruptly the chair screeched across the floor. "Not under this roof," he snapped. "No son of mine is going to disgrace this family," my mom whispered. "John, please," but didn't move. "I'm still me." I tried to reason. "No, you're not," he snapped back. "You're sick, twisted. You've been around those drama club kids too much, haven't you? Letting them fill your head with nonsense?" "I've always been this way," I said, trying to steady my voice. "You just refuse to see it." Slammed his fist on the table, making me flinch so hard my chair rattled. "You think this is some kind of lifestyle you get to flaunt in front of us?" "I didn't choose this," I said. "I chose to be honest." That's when my mother spoke again, not to defend me, but to put an end to it. "I think it's best you leave." I turned to her, stunned mom. Airs welled in her eyes, but she wouldn't meet my gaze. "You're 18 now. An adult. If this is truly who you are, then maybe it's time you figure things out on your own." I stood frozen, the air around me suddenly thicker, colder. The kitchen hadn't changed, but it felt foreign. I felt like a guest in the house I grew up. Dad left and returned with a white envelope. "There's $200 in here," he said flatly. "That's all you're getting. Don't come back until you fix this. Until you're normal." He shoved it into my chest. When I didn't take it, he let it fall to the floor. I picked it up. My hands were trembling. No one hugged me. No one asked where I'd go. My mother retreated to the hallway, crying like she was the one being cast out. My father opened the front door and waited. I stepped out with just my phone, a hoodie, and that envelope. No backpack, no plan. The door clicked shut behind me, and that was it. The air outside hit me like a slap. It was late, the streets quiet, and the only sounds were crickets and the occasional rumble of a distant car. I walked with no direction, the cold biting through my hoodie. My phone buzzed texts from my best friend Jamie, who I'd confided in weeks before. "Jamie, you okay? Jamie, want me to come get you? Jamie, where are you?" I stared at the screen until my vision blurred, then typed, "Me, they kicked me out. Jamie, I'm on my way. Stay put." Didn't tell her where I was. I didn't know. I was wandering the neighborhood like a ghost. 10 minutes later, her car pulled up beside me. She flung the passenger door open. "Oh my God," she breathed. "Are you okay?" I got in, numb. I don't know. She didn't say anything. For a while, just drove. Eventually, we ended up in front of her house. "My parents are cool with you staying," she said quietly. "They know." I blinked. "They know." She nodded. "I told them you might need help," I said. "No problem." Inside, her mom offered me a blanket and hot cocoa. Her dad gave me a tight, awkward smile and said, "Any friend of Jamie's is welcome here." That night, I lay on their couch, wrapped in unfamiliar softness. It smelled like cinnamon and something safe. I didn't cry. Not really. Just stared at the ceiling, trying to understand how the truth could cost me everything. The following week, blurred. Jamie's family fed me, checked in on me, gave me space. I enrolled in community college with money from a small scholarship and a part-time job Jamie helped me find at a bookstore. Some nights were better than others. Some were filled with laughter and Netflix marathons. Others, I'd lie awake and Replay my parents' face as my father's disgust, my mother's quiet betrayal. Those nights, shame crept in like a fog. Not because I was gay, but because the people who were supposed to love me didn't. Jamie noticed. "You're not broken," she said one day, out of nowhere. I shrugged. "They are," she added, "for letting hate win." One afternoon at work, a customer left behind a notebook. When I flipped through it to find a name, I found poetry. Raw, angry, beautiful poetry about love and rejection and resilience. A week later, a guy returned for it. "You read it, didn't you?" he asked, eyes guarded. I hesitated just a little. It was ... amazing. That's how I met Tyler. He was quiet, artsy, a year older. We started talking, first about books, then music, then life. He never asked me to be anything I wasn't. Being around him felt easy. We began meeting after my shifts. Walks in the park, coffee runs, talks that went late into the night. One evening, sitting on a park bench, he said, "You don't have to say anything, but I like you. Just thought you should know." I didn't respond immediately. My heart was loud in my chest. Finally, I said, "I like you too." That was the start of something gentle. No labels, no pressure. Just kindness. A month later, I saw my mom at the grocery store. She looked thinner, older. We made eye contact, and for a moment, I thought she might walk over. Instead, she turned, down another aisle. I stood frozen with a loaf of bread in my hand, wondering if she missed me, wondering if she even thought about me at all. Later that night, I cried for the first time in weeks, not because I wanted to go back, but because I wanted her to want me back. The days kept passing. Seasons shifted, leaves turned gold, then fell, and winter came in sharp and silent. I was still living with Jamie's family. I paid a bit of rent now, helped with groceries, and tried not to feel like a guest in someone else's life. But the truth was, they'd become a kind of second family. Not perfect, but safe. Honest. Tyler and I grew closer. He'd wait for me outside the bookstore with 2 hot chocolates and a crooked smile. We'd walk home slowly, talking about stupid things, how people misunderstood Holden Caulfield, why rain made everything feel like a movie. He was the first person who ever kissed me without looking around to see who might be watching. But I still carried the silence of my parents like a shadow. Then, one Sunday morning, I got a letter. No return address. Just my name, written in my mother's handwriting. I stared at it for a long time before opening it. I don't know how to begin. Maybe I should have never let you walk out that night. Maybe I should have said something instead of just crying. In the hallway, your father doesn't want to talk about it. Maybe he never will, but I think about you every day. I know I hurt you. I know I failed you. I don't know how to fix that. But I wanted you to know I love you, and I'm sorry. Mom, I read it 3 times. Then folded it and slipped it into my journal like something too fragile to keep out in the open. That night, I told Tyler. She wrote me, I said. Not to ask me back. Not to fix everything. Just to say sorry. He looked at me for a long time, then said, "That's something." "Yeah," I whispered. "It is." In time, I found a rhythm again. I finished my semester with decent grades, got promoted at the bookstore, and started saving for an apartment of my own. I was still figuring out who I was and who I wanted to become. But for the first time in a long while, I wasn't afraid of the answer. One evening, Jameen and I sat on the porch watching the stars. "You know," she said, "you've come a long way." I looked at her, a smile tugging at the corner of my mouth. Yeah, I guess I have. The road ahead wasn't perfect. There were days when I still ached for the family I lost. But I was learning to build a new one from people who chose me, accepted me, loved me exactly as I was, not despite it. Because of it, spring arrived gently. I moved into a small apartment near the river, little too drafty, little too loud at night, but it was mine. I painted the kitchen yellow. Tyler helped build a bookshelf from old crates. It creaked under the weight of too many novels, but I loved the sound. It meant stories lived there. Jamie cried when I left her house. "You're only 10 minutes away," I reminded her. "That's not the point. she sniffed. It's the end of an era. She wasn't wrong. A few months later, I visited home not to stay. Just to visit, my mom met me at the front door, her arms crossed like she was bracing for a storm. We didn't hug right away, just stood there, eyes searching. Then she stepped aside and said, "Come in." The house was smaller than I remembered. Or maybe I was bigger in a way that had nothing to do with height. We sat in the kitchen, the same one where I'd cried through algebra and eaten burned pancakes on Saturdays. She poured coffee. Her hands trembled just enough to make mine steady. There were long silences, some of them heavy, some of them healing. She asked about the bookstore. I told her about Tyler. She smiled at that faintly, but honestly. When I left, she didn't say, "Don't be a stranger." She said, "I'm proud of you." And that was enough. Weeks turned into months. Life moved. Not fast, just forward. Tyler got accepted into a grad program out of state. We talked about it on the roof of my apartment building, watching the city flicker like a million tiny promises. "You'll come with me?" he asked. "I might," I said, resting my head on his shoulder, "or I'll find my own path." "Maybe. Both." We sat in silence for a while, and he smiled. "I'd follow you anywhere," he said. "I don't need you to," I replied. "But I love that you'd want to." The girl who once sat on a stranger's porch with no coat and no plan had changed. She still missed things, still carried the ache of what was lost. But now, she had root sand wings. She had people who knew her, and she was learning every single day that family wasn't just blood. It was love. It was truth. It was who stayed when the easy thing would have been to leave.